Hello and welcome to Podgorica, the capital of Montenegro, for this new edition of Europe District. Montenegro, the land of the Black Mountains, is one of Europe's smallest nations. It's also one of the continent's most beautiful countries. With our guest, we'll take you to Lake Skadar and to the Adriatic coast. We'll also find out more about the state of Montenegro's economy. High unemployment and tax evasion remain a problem in this Balkan nation, but Montenegro is determined to join the European Union. Inspired by its northern neighbour, Croatia, it hopes to be the next in line to join the club. Montenegro declared its independence in a referendum in 2006. This marked the end of the short-lived union between Serbia and Montenegro. Ever since, Podgorica has sought to distance itself from Belgrade. As you will see, this even applies to religion. Johan Bodin reports.
In Podgorica, in the park of the royal castle, every Sunday, come rain or shine, Živorad gathers with his faithful few for an outdoor service, just as he has done for the last 13 years.
It's a building without doors, windows, walls, an altar or a dome. Why is it that we don't have a place of worship? Because of historical reasons. Montenegrins are deprived of their churches.
In Montenegro, two branches of the Orthodox Church are battling for property. One of them is relatively new. It calls itself the Montenegrin Church and controls only about 50 of the country's churches. The other, of Serbian descent, has been in the country for longer and controls some 1,000 churches, and that number keeps growing. In Zagorac, a village in the north of the country, the head of the Serbian church, Amfiloje Radovic, has come to introduce a new priest into the parish.
For me and for the people gathered here, it's a day of great joy. Today there are hundreds of churches, monasteries, parishes and dioceses that are being given a new lease of life.
The church was restored thanks to funds from the government of neighbouring Serbia. Montenegro may have been independent of the country for 5 years, but most of its churches are still reliant on religious authorities in Belgrade. Like here in Kotor, it's the Serbian flag that adorns the cathedral. For Ivan, it's an invasion of his country's sovereignty. He's part of the new Montenegrin Orthodox Church, and his chapel belongs to the state.
I'm not Serbian. I'm Montenegrin, and that's why I choose to serve the Montenegrin Church and not the Serbian Church. We are not a sect. We are what was here before, which has always existed here, and which was confiscated.
Ivan regards the Montenegrin Church as the legitimate church of his country, historically autonomous for a long period of time, then dissolved and attached to the Serbian Church in 1920. The architect of the new Montenegrin Church, with its strong national spirit, is an eccentric man of God. He's been excluded from several churches, and his dream is to unite Catholicism and Orthodox Christianity. But his real crusade is to nationalise the wealth of the Serbian Church.
It was the ancestors of Montenegrins who constructed 97% of the churches and monasteries here. And everything you find on Montenegrin land is the cultural property of Montenegro.
His new Orthodox Church hasn't been officially recognised by the state, but he does have the support of some political heavyweights in Montenegro.
The key tool of the Serbian strategy in the region is the church. They are like agents more than the churches. They are more politicians and intelligence services than the real priests.
Whether transferring the wealth of the Serbian Church to Montenegro or just sharing it, either way, the idea is out of the question for the head of the Serbian Church, Amfiloje Radovic.
They want to nationalize in the same way as the Bolsheviks. It's an idea that goes against the law, against the church. This group of politicians, we call them National Socialists. They have a way of thinking that's totally unholy.
In Montenegro, the wealth of the Serbian Church is estimated to be several €100 million.
Well, let's meet our first guest in the programme, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and European Integration of Montenegro, Mr. Milan Rocen. Mr. Rocen, thank you for having us. In December, your country obtained candidate status from Brussels. We also know that Croatia should join the EU by 2013. Are you confident that your country, Montenegro, will be the next Balkan nation to enter the club?
It all depends on us. If we fulfill all the conditions and obligations, I'm convinced that Montenegro will pursue at all speed its route towards membership. We've made a lot of progress in very little time. We think that in its October report, the Commission will put forward a positive conclusion and propose opening membership negotiations.
However, though, some say that Europe suffers from so-called enlargement fatigue, that the enlargement should stop now. Aren't you worried that following Croatia's entry, the doors of the European Union could close forever?
The conditions for new members are becoming more and more difficult. Brussels is becoming more and more demanding. We're a small country with a small administration, but we have a lot of enthusiasm and aspirations. We're not afraid of enlargement fatigue. We understand that the EU has been dealing with a lot of problems recently. But why would the EU go back on one of its best policies, the one of enlargement? The EU's credibility is at stake. We can't imagine a European Union that doesn't consist of the whole continent.
Your country, Montenegro, is still struggling to shake off its image as a crime hub. There were reports of drug trafficking activities. Why is that?
Montenegro has no more and no fewer problems with smuggling and trafficking in illegal narcotics than other countries. I'd even say that relative to the size and population of our country, we even have fewer problems than others. But we have to defend ourselves from the image you've just conjured up. They're more stereotypes that hark back to the Milosevic era, when we started to break away from Belgrade. The idea of an axis of organized crime has been pushed by opponents of Montenegrin independence and the 2006 referendum.
Since the declaration of independence of your country in 2006, you've sought to distance yourself from Serbia. Would you say that you should drift further away from Belgrade, or is it time for a rapprochement?
We're not going to keep our distance from Serbia or any other country. For the first time, the Balkans have been reunited around a single objective: integration with Europe. We're not always on the same page as Serbia, but that doesn't do any damage to our relations. One of the biggest successes in our diplomacy is to have recognized Kosovo without seeing our relations with Serbia deteriorate. Our new Prime Minister recently went to Belgrade. Our greatest interest is that Serbia, the largest country in the region, is stable, democratic and prosperous, because that will help the region as a whole.
Milan Rocen, Foreign Minister of Montenegro, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In Montenegro, unemployment officially stands at 15%, but according to several estimates, informal work accounts for up to 30% of the total economic activity. This creates a huge hole in the government's coffers.
Here at the employment agency in Podgorica, Edo, a carpenter, has come to register, but he already has a job.
In fact, I've been working for 4 years, but illegally. I would much prefer, though, to work legally in a factory.
Montenegro's unemployment rate varies enormously from month to month, and depending on the methods used. In June, at the start of the tourist season, officially it stood at 11%, but the yearly average is higher, around 15%. The seasonal variation is a result of how closely Montenegro's economy is tied into tourism. It's one of the sectors where most informal workers are found.
According to statistics from 2007, 19.7% of workers in the tourism industry are informal workers. As for agriculture, it was 18% and 15.7% in the retail sector.
For years, the need to protect jobs in the post-communist era has been the priority. Trade unions and employers have only just started to deal with the issue of informal work. The country's employers' union has recently launched a campaign to convince businesses to declare their staff. The financial crisis has also made the situation worse. 14,000 businesses have seen their accounts plunge into the red, and some resorting to undeclared work to avoid paying taxes.
Banks haven't supported businesses to help them out of the crisis. And I suppose that's the reason why many of them have been forced to enter the illegal market.
To tackle the problem, the state's recruited 30 work inspectors.
Over the last 6 months, we have carried out 6,243 inspections, and we found 4,245 cases of improper employment.
But only 60 fines have been given. So far, it seems the authorities are favouring a soft approach, while urging companies to get back on the legal track.
This rather unassuming street has recently become the business centre of Podgorica. This is the right place to meet our next guest in the programme. Dusan Lekic is a consultant. He will tell us more about the state of the economy of Montenegro. Dusan, nice to meet you.
Hi, Christoph. Nice to meet you. You are on the right place. This is the crossroad for us, let's say, between west and east, because this is the Moscow Street, and on the other side is George Washington Boulevard, which explained exactly our wishes to keep good relations with both sides. And also our economy, it's a half-half.
And of course Montenegro was badly hit by the economic crisis. How are things nowadays?
Yes, after literally one explosion of the foreign investments, we have in last 2 years the period of stagnation of the foreign investments. Even local investments are stopped. Yes, we paid high price, but we are getting out from the crisis, and I hope that this year we will have first positive results.
Dusan, our next stop is the stock exchange of Podgorica.
Yes, but it's really too tiny, and it's very difficult to find, but let's try.
You'll show us the way.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Is it Montenegro Stock Exchange here?
Yes, it is Montenegro Stock Exchange. Welcome. You can see our meeting room here.
Yes.
And equipment room. It is the heart of the stock exchange. And our trading and surveillance room. As you can see, our colleagues are working here. The economy in Montenegro is slowly growing, and the capital market will follow it, and we hope that it will be okay in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dusan, after the stock exchange, you've taken us to the heavyweight of Montenegro's industry. This is KAP, one of Europe's largest aluminium plants. Its production each year accounts for half the GDP of Montenegro.
I like to say this is the industrial monster. This kind of production, when the state practically depends on this product, I don't see as a strategic choice. They start to build in the late 60s, and the factory was opened the beginning of 70s. For the big Yugoslavia, it was not too big. But now for small Montenegro, this is a very big factory.
As we can see, this is an old factory, and there are of course grave concerns about the environmental impact of this factory on the whole region.
As I heard, even the United Nations made some research because they are also concerned. Everybody says for the moment that it's safe, but when we remember what we saw last year happening in Hungary. We cannot be sure. Red mud, this is the waste product of the factory. So for the moment, okay, it's secure more or less, but we really don't know what can happen one day.
Following the collapse of Yugoslavia, this factory almost closed down, but then came the Russians in 2005. They bought a majority stake. Why were the Russians interested in this plant?
Well, I'll tell you my personal opinion. The Russians, as a group which controlled more than 60% of the market of aluminium in the world, so I deeply believe that they are very interested to control all the production, because in this case they will be able to control the prices. They promise that they will invest, they will modernize, they will make filters, etc. So we don't see too much moving in this direction.
Our next stop is a goat farm 5 kilometers east of Podgorica.
Yes, it's maybe a little bit easier to live from tourism than from the farm. But now, in this crisis, the people start to understand what is the very important and what is the possibility to make to themselves a nice life. This is a famous family which already for 10 years they are taking care of those nice goats, and they are also producer of the very, very nice goat cheese. It's a very good cheese. You know that we just become a candidate for the European Union, and I believe it's the right moment for Montenegro to protect our types of cheese to be ready in a few years for the European standards. Why should we import 90% of the food when we have fantastic conditions for all the activities in the agriculture sector?
It's already the end of the first part of Europe District, but we'll return after the news break in 10 minutes, so please stay with us. We'll continue our journey through Montenegro. We'll meet a new guest in the program, and she will show us some of her favorite places in the country.